On June 30th, 1966, Mike Tyson was born in the poor ghettos of Brownsville, Brooklyn, New York. The prologue to the life that would one day shake the boxing world was written amid poverty, violence, and neglect. House, a broken home, a turbulent start. Tyson's family was fractured from the very beginning. His biological father's identity remains a mystery. Some say it was Purcell Tyson, a Jamaican taxi driver. Others claim it was Jimmy Kirkpatrick. Whichever man it was, he abandoned the family when Mike was very young. His mother, Lorna Mae Smith, was left to raise Mike, his older brother, and his older sister alone. To make ends meet, she worked as a prison guard and, at times, resorted to prostitution just to keep a roof over their heads. Tyson once described their dire poverty. "We got put out of our places more than once. Every time we moved, it got worse. We went from being poor to being broke to being nothing. Finally, we lived in a building with no heat, no water, and occasional electricity. In the winter, to stay warm, the four of us had to sleep in one bed." Later, Lorna took a boyfriend, but the home remained filled with violence and instability. Tyson later recalled that he slept in the same bed with his mother until he was 15 and even witnessed her having sex with other men. Oncoming fist survival on the streets, a breeding ground for crime. With no parental guidance, the streets of Brownsville became Tyson's real classroom. This neighborhood was infested with gangs, drugs, and daily brutality. A long rap sheet. By the age of 7, Tyson was already stealing. By 11, he was using drugs. He was arrested repeatedly for theft, robbery, and assault. By the time he turned 13, he had been arrested 38 times. School bullying. At school, he was mocked for his poverty, his lisp, and his childhood obesity. Other kids would steal and stomp on his glasses. He later said, "I was afraid to be at home, and I was afraid to go outside. School was a nightmare." A fatal trigger. One of the turning points, Tyson recalled, was when a neighbor killed one of his beloved pigeons. That was the first time he exploded with his fists. Deep insecurity. Growing up in such a hostile environment made him profoundly insecure. He didn't even have a girlfriend until he was 18. Broken heart, the death of his mother, and a cold gift. In 1982, when Tyson was 16, his mother Lorna died of cancer. His reaction to her death was chillingly detached. He later admitted that her passing might have been the best thing that ever happened to him because, "If my mother had lived, she would have taken care of me, and I would never have gotten into street fighting. I would never have learned to defend myself." Those words reveal the desperate, twisted logic of a boy forced to harden his heart just to survive in a brutal world. Glowing star, a twist to fate. Meeting the father figure, Cuz D'Amato. Just when Tyson was about to be swallowed entirely by darkness, a light appeared. At 13, after yet another arrest, he was sent to the Tryon School for Boys, a juvenile detention center in upstate New York. There, a former boxer and recreation counselor, Bobby Stewart, recognized his raw talent and introduced him to the legendary trainer Cuz D'Amato. Cuz took one look at the young Tyson and declared that he would become the heavyweight champion of the world. He didn't just train him, he became his legal guardian and, more importantly, the father figure Tyson had never known. Cuz put him on a strict training regimen, taught him to channel his rage, and cared for him like a son. For the first time, Mike experienced what it felt like to be loved and trusted. But tragedy struck again. On November 4th, 1985, Cuz D'Amato died of pneumonia. The man who had reshaped Tyson's life never got to see his protege claim the crown. Tyson turned his grief into fuel. 1 year later, at just 20 years old, he knocked out his opponent in 2 rounds to become the youngest heavyweight champion in boxing history. Gemstone, the legacy of a bruised childhood. Mike Tyson's childhood is a story of extreme poverty, family breakdown, street violence, and a lost boy searching for direction. From a small, bullied, and broken child, he transformed, with the guidance of his mentor Cuz D'Amato, into a force of nature who harnessed his pain and talent to conquer the world. Yet those same early scars that made him great also laid the groundwork for the controversies and turmoil that would follow him throughout his life. If childhood forged the weapon, adulthood tested its steel. Mike Tyson conquered the world at 20, but the very demons that propelled him into the ring conspired to destroy him outside of it. His struggles and his romances are not separate stories. They are the same firestorm, burning brightly and dangerously for decades. Boxing glove: the struggles. The fall from grace. 1. The loss of a father, again. The first great struggle of his adult life was the void left by Cus D'Amato's death in 1985. Without Cus' guiding hand, Tyson was a ship without a rudder. He fell under the spell of manipulative promoters, most notably Don King, who bled him dry financially. He later admitted, "I didn't know how to handle success. Cus taught me how to fight, but he died before he could teach me how to live." 2. The first cracks in the armor. On February 11, 1990, in Tokyo, the seemingly invincible Iron Mike was knocked out by 42-1 underdog Buster Douglas. It wasn't just a loss, it was the shattering of an illusion. The media frenzy that followed revealed a man partying excessively, neglecting training, and believing his own hype. The loss triggered a deep spiral of self-doubt and paranoia. 3. The prison sentence. The heaviest blow came in 1992. Tyson was convicted of rape and sentenced to 3 years in prison. He served 3 years of his 6-year sentence in the Indiana Youth Center. For a man who had everything, this was the ultimate deprivation. He lost his prime fighting years, his freedom, and his public reputation. In prison, he converted to Islam, adopting the name Malik Abdulaziz, and tried to rebuild himself mentally, but the rage was still simmering. 4. The bite fight and public outrage. After his release, he clawed his way back to a title shot against Evander Holyfield. But in their 1997 rematch, unable to beat Holyfield fairly, Tyson bit off a piece of his opponent's ear in a moment of primal frustration. He was disqualified, suspended, and fined $3 million. He became a global punchline, no longer a fearsome champion, but a circus act. 5. Financial ruin. Despite earning over $300 million during his career, Tyson filed for bankruptcy in 2003. He had squandered his fortune on mansions, luxury cars, pet tigers, and a lavish entourage of friends who bled him dry. He later discovered that his promoter, Don King, had stolen tens of millions from him. At rock bottom, he was heavily addicted to cocaine and alcohol, weighing over 300 pounds, and deeply suicidal. He famously admitted, "I was on drugs. I was a mess. I didn't want to live anymore. I was just a bum. A fat, 300-pound alcoholic." Red Heart: The Love Life, a series of explosive romances. Tyson's romantic history is just as volatile as his career. Raised without a stable model of love, he approached relationships with the same intensity and lack of control he had in the ring. 1. Robin Givens, married 1988 to 1989, the Hollywood disaster. Tyson's first marriage was to actress Robin Givens, star of the sitcom Head of the Class. It was a match made in media hell. They married in 1988, and it quickly devolved into a public spectacle of screaming matches, domestic disputes, and mutual accusations. Givens famously called living with Tyson pure hell and told Barbara Walters that Tyson was manic depressive. In one infamous incident, Tyson admitted to smashing furniture and trying to jump out of a moving car to escape an argument. The marriage lasted less than a year, ending in a brutal divorce. Tyson later reflected that he never truly loved her. He was infatuated with her celebrity and used the relationship to fill his own emptiness. 2. Monica Turner, married 1997 to 2003, the prison pen pal. While serving his prison sentence, Tyson began a relationship with Monica Turner, a medical student. They married in 1997, just after the Holyfield bite incident. She gave him 2 children, but the marriage couldn't survive his addictions and the relentless pressure of his career. She filed for divorce in 2003, citing his infidelity, drug abuse, and volatile temper. Once again, his personal life collapsed just as his finances did. 3. Lakia Kiki Spicer, married 2009, present, Finding Anchorage. By the late 2000s, Tyson was a wreck, physically, mentally, and financially. But in 2009, He married Lakia Spicer, the daughter of a former boxing promoter. Unlike his previous marriages, this one was quiet and private. She had known him since she was a teenager and saw past the monster the media portrayed. Kiki was the anchor he desperately needed. She stood by him during his worst withdrawal symptoms, held his hand as he filed for bankruptcy, and helped him raise his youngest daughter, Milan. Tyson credits her with saving his life, stating that she taught him what real, unconditional love actually is. She is the only person who ever stuck with me when I had nothing. When I was a loser, she was there. That's real love. Sunrise, the modern struggle, redemption. Today, the struggle continues, but it looks different. Tyson fights his demons daily. He still battles his weight, his past trauma, and the urge to relapse. But he has transformed his pain into a successful one-man show on Broadway. Mike Tyson, Undisputed Truth, launched a thriving cannabis business and become a beloved pop culture figure. His relationship with Kiki and his children, he has fathered at least 7 children from various relationships, has grounded him. He admits he is still not perfect, but for the first time in his life, he has traded chaos for peace. In his own words, reflecting on his life, "I just want to be a better person. I was a villain, then I was a victim, and now I'm just a man trying to survive." The youngest heavyweight champion in history. On November 22, 1986, at just 20 years and 4 months old, Tyson knocked out Trevor Berbick to win the WBC heavyweight title. He remains the youngest heavyweight champion in boxing history, a record that still stands today. 2. Undisputed champion. By 1987, he unified the 3 major belts, WBA, WBC, and IBF, to become the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, dominating an entire era of boxing. 3. A devastating knockout record. Tyson finished his career with a professional record of 50 wins and 6 losses, with 44 wins by knockout. At his peak, 37-0, he knocked out 33 of his first 37 opponents, often in the very first round. 4. The baddest man on the planet. He became a global cultural icon, striking fear into opponents with his peekaboo style, head movement, and terrifying punching power. He inspired a generation of fighters and remains one of the most recognizable athletes in history. 5. Hall of Fame induction. In 2011, he was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame and the World Boxing Hall of Fame, cementing his legacy among the all-time greats. 6. Later redemption and pop culture legacy. Outside the ring, his one-man Broadway show, Undisputed Truth, and his recent exhibition bouts, including the 2020 fight against Roy Jones Jr., proved his lasting star power, transitioning from a tragic figure to a beloved pop culture legend. Bottom line, his peak was short but terrifyingly brilliant. He didn't just win, he destroyed opponents, and his name remains synonymous with pure, raw power in combat sports.